Hello, and welcome to part 4 on the Renaissance here at Learning the Social Sciences. Today we're going to be focusing on Northern Europe and their Renaissance. So, of course, the birthplace of the Renaissance is in Florence, Italy, and it spreads through Italy like a wildfire. However, Northern Europe catches on as well. However, there are going to have some distinguishing factors from their counterpart in Italy. Now, Italy is going to be driven by humanism and the study of the classical era, while Northern Europe is actually going to start to really focus on religious reform. We're also going to have the Renaissance start to overlap in Northern Europe with the Reformation. So it makes sense to have this religious reform coming out as well. But also in those early Northern European Renaissance writers like Erasmus, we have people talking about the need for religious change already before Martin Luther ever comes into the scene. Also, we have the patrons of Northern Europe. However, a lot of them are the monarchs and the princes. We don't have this large class with a whole bunch of wealth like we have in Italy, in places like England and the Netherlands and France. So some things are going to be just a little bit different. But we also have some great painters and some great writers coming out up here in the north. So let's first jump into Flemish realism. Flemish realism, yeah, well, in the name realism, we're going to have these realistic paintings where things just jump out at you. But we're going to be having some different themes than what we're going to be seeing in Italy. We're going to be seeing a lot of townspeople or common people in there. Of course, we're still going to be seeing religious connotations in there or religious artwork in there, but we're going to be just having a lot more just real life happening in these paintings than what we're going to be seeing necessarily in Italy, which of course, we have Botticelli and mythology, and we have those individual paintings, and we have a whole bunch of Madonna and Child, but we do have other things. And so in the Flemish realism movement, we have, for example, Jan van Eyck, where he does have some paintings where we do have religion coming in there, but we also just have his realism in there, coming out, standing out in terms of how he is painting the townspeople, how he is painting and having that detail, that intrinsic detail in there. We're also going to have another famous artist, and that's going to be Peter Bruegel, or, well, some people say Bruegel, but we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of how to say things in Dutch here. But he is also somebody who also captures that detail of the Flemish realism, but also has the common people represented so well. And so he's also going to get a nickname where they're going to call him Peasant Bruegel, but we're not also going to go down that rabbit hole too. So in France, with their Renaissance, it's going to really begin when, well, the French invade Italy and the Italian peninsula in 1494, starting off those Italian wars, which are going to continue on into the 1500s. Now, they come and see what's going on down here in Italy. And yeah, well, the King of France literally just kind of takes them home with him. He invited Da Vinci, he invited Sarto, he invited different artists to come to France, and they do. And so that is going to be helping bring in the era here in France. And of course, the most important patron in France is going to be the king, of course, at the very beginning, Francis the First. And he is also going to be setting up an art school, the School of Fontainebleau, which of course does other things. But with there, we are going to be now having the artistic movement starting in France. Now, another important feature of the Northern Renaissance is the printing press. And this is now going to be movable type to do a lot faster printing. And it's going to be invented by Johann Gutenberg in the mid 15th century. Here's your little side tip of the day. Johann Gutenberg was actually Gansfleisch, uh, goose flesh, if you translate it into English. And yeah, when he kind of did his invention, everything, he took his mom's maiden name. So that's where Gutenberg comes from. But yeah, that was not the name that he was born with. Anyway, the Northern Renaissance, with its printing press, is going to take off in a different way than the Italian in terms of also having some great writers come out. We have Thomas More with his book Utopia, where he discusses this ideal society that, yeah, okay, it can't exist. But what a society could achieve. He is pushing for social reform. He wants people to, yes, live with peace and harmony in a society where no one is lazy and everybody is educated, where you eliminate the crime but not the criminal. And think, this is a guy who's living in Tudor England, and the chops of heads kind of keep happening. So for him to kind of talking about the eliminate the crime but not the criminal, this is big. This is big. We have Erasmus as another great writer who is going to be writing about the Catholic Church and the reforms they need to do. And then, of course, one of the great writers is Shakespeare. And so, with his plays and with everything that he is going to pen in his lifetime, yeah, the Globe Theater and Shakespeare's writing is just going to continue to be known in the English speaking world. So by the 1500s, printing presses were running in more than 200 cities across Europe. Sad thing for Gutenberg is a patent doesn't exist yet, so it's not like he's going to get uber wealthy off of his machine. People just simply copy it. Anyway, there is now going to be a change in terms of what happens with politics and the church, because now, with people printing their ideas, we're going to have the government and the church have to deal with that. How are they going to deal with this freedom of speech and this freedom of press? Are they going to allow it, or are they going to censor it? And also, how in the world are they themselves going to now use the printing press for their own propaganda, or how are they going to counter the propaganda of others? So think about this as we now move forward with, yeah, European history. In terms of another painter that is very, very much known during the era and who is also a Renaissance man of himself, we'd go over to Germany with Albrecht Dürer. Now, Dürer is a scholar. He is an artist. He is somebody that is also working in numerous fields, sometimes because he needs to, because he's got to pay his bills. But he wrote books on geometry. He would often be commissioned to build fortifications or to build fortresses. So he wrote books on that. Also, he had books on human proportions. And he, of course, is also a painter as well. One of his most known paintings, though, is actually his own self portrait, which he did of himself in 1498 when he was only 26 years old. And who was his main patron? Well, it's going to be the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, Emperor Maximilian the First. As you can see, again, having the main rulers and monarchs being the patrons here up in the north. Jumping to Spain, I know that's going back down south, but I can't get out of the Renaissance without mentioning El Greco. Now, El Greco himself was actually Greek, but he moves to Spain. So there you go, Spain. Now he goes and takes all that has kind of been learned from the Renaissance, all that is seen in the Renaissance, because he is somebody in the late 1500s, early 1600s, and now he starts to distort things. He elongates figures, he distorts bodies, he has things in unearthly atmospheres. He's playing with the light, having like flickering light. He is ignoring the rules of perspective that we just brought back. Well, when we have artwork, we have changes in artwork, and he is bringing in some changes. Of course, one of his most known pieces where you can see kind of the changes that he is ushering in is the burial of Count Orgaz, who, when you look at that painting, you can, well, one, try to figure out what's going on. What are you actually seeing in the painting? But how in the world is it aligning with the Renaissance artists of the Italian Renaissance, of the Northern Renaissance, with the of the Flemish? And now, what is he doing here in Spain? And what isn't he doing? What is he doing that's different? So, El Greco, very much known for his era. So, thank you for listening. Have a great day, and bye bye.